The Spoken Token is a proud member of the Pod Studio One podcast network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the big, giant summer show. Welcome in. I am Larry Neal.
And I'm Alex Wallace.
And we are the Spoken Token podcast. Alex. Hey, man, this is one of my favorite times of the year. You can cue the Andy Williams, man. You can go right ahead.
It's the most wonderful time. Oh, my gosh, that was... Excuse me, I didn't warm up my voice.
It was as expected, which is great.
It's true.
Which is great. No, that's what I was waiting for. So it's our big, huge reveal. We've been talking about it on social media. If you follow us on Instagram, you've been seeing it. If not, please go out and give us a follow. We would certainly appreciate it. But it is summer of games, and this one is 4. And as you know, if you've been with us for 1 through 3, we always have a theme. And this year's theme, cue the space-themed music and see if you can catch this.
No, that's Superman.
Summer of Games 4, Return of the Games Group. That was super anticlimactic. But that's a play on Empire Strikes Back, obviously. Guys.
No,
it is.
It's not.
In my head, it is.
Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi.
I mean, Return of the Jedi. Sorry. You're right. Thank you for the help. I'm about to give you some dap on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, no, my brain was completely off. It's Return of the Jedi.
But you said it with such confidence.
I know, right? That's why I gave you the dap.
You know what, folks? This happens all the time. I correct Larry, and I'm actually right. But this might be the first time it's actually happened on air.
It does not happen all the time.
It does.
It does not.
It does too.
So at any rate, as we're going to get on into the launch of the show, first up, as always, Mr. Alex, sir, how are you doing?
Hey, man, I am rocking and rolling, rocking and reeling. I don't know. It's Bob Moran. Bob Moran. But no, I actually just got back from a board game retreat weekend.
Ooh, fantastic.
With Dave, the mythical creature Dave, and my brother-in-law, Josh. And it was Friday through Sunday, and we did nothing but play games and eat food. And it was so good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So good.
Yeah, if you were on Instagram, you saw a lot of pictures. He chronicled it with a lot of pictures.
Yeah, and I mean, we played, there was only, in my estimation, everything was in varying degrees of great, but then there was only one game we didn't finish. We tried Tiny Epic Pirates, and we got 20 minutes in, and we're like, done.
No.
Sorry, we packed it up.
And I thought you loved that game.
I didn't love it. I said I enjoyed it, what I played, and now that I've played it a couple more times, it's oof.
The usual Alex treatment.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, I will tell you this: games are getting played more before they leave. It's like, my wife and I were laughing about it, and I apparently, I'm
glad you were.
I go on a couple of dates with these games, and then I'm just like, sorry, it's not working out. I'm kind of like,
speed dating.
Yeah, well, it's not even really speed. Now, speed dating is what I used to do. It's like, oh, you're awesome. Okay, bye. But now it's like, hey, okay, well, I'll take him out to a dinner, and then we'll spend some time together. And then at that point, I'm like, it's not you, it's me. And then I hopefully.
You don't send them emails, do you?
No,
I do it in person, right?
In person, okay, I look at them, I hold them, and not hold them.
Okay. Got weird.
That's right. I cuddle my games before I send them on.
Clearly you don't.
Before I send them on. No, but we're moving to a smaller shelf for the board games, and so it is. Real estate is even tighter now. But I mean, again, I think this. I was thinking about this morning as I actually was moving games to the smaller shelf. I have changed since we've started this process of even on the podcast. Of what I appreciate, what I value,
well, sure,
and what I emotionally need to hang on to. I picked up a copy of Scythe. It has been sitting on my shelf unplayed for the last 3 years.
You loved it.
I still really appreciate that game.
Right.
But what is a game doing in my house if it's sitting on a shelf not getting played?
Well, opportunities and audiences and game groups, a lot of things go into it more than just owning the game.
But to meet each of those, that game has had opportunity. It has been.
I don't remember you bringing it out other than the time we played it.
Yeah, but Larry, when we play games, we're usually playing like new things. We very rarely.
Well, you and I didn't mean you and I. When I said we, I mean in terms of if we gotten together in the group. The only time I played it, you brought it, and we're like, let's play Scythe, and everybody was like, cool, let's do it, and that's not happened again. Now, to be fair. That group's probably only gotten together since that time, probably less than a half a dozen times.
Exactly. And so,
but at each one of those, Alex was not there holding Scythe again saying, hey, let's play Scythe. So that's what I get it. I get it, but part of it at some point we have to look at it and say, well, because this is what I'm going through.
Mhm.
It's like there's nothing keeping me from playing a lot of these games other than I'm just not bringing them
Mhm.
and pushing them up there. And I've been trying it with my siblings. I don't know, they may or may not be listening, but anyway, the last couple of times I've gone, I've brought games, and instead of trying to read the room or waiting for a kid, I've just been like, okay, this is what we're playing this time. They come to the table. They've learned 2 new games, one of which is Stuck.
What was that one?
It's not that deep. It's money. They love money.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
They need his money. Yeah, they love money. So, and they actually like Sprawlopolis too, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But even though that was a lighter game, it was still a bit of a gamble, but they love it, and it stuck. And it was just me bringing it. And this last time when I was there, it was in the bag. I pulled out Sprawlopolis, but we played money too.
Okay. But
because I pulled it out. So that I will be honest, that's part of it. And I get it. You want to read the room. For me, what I found out, I know I'm hijacking this, but this will be the end of mine talking about it too. What I found out is that I have to decouple my personal mindset from when I'm playing with people other than you or the game group than when I'm playing with other people. If I go into the same mindset, yeah, I'm like you. I want to move to something new. I want to show them this.
But see,
and I can't.
But that's what's happening. Like as I grow as a gamer, I don't want new games.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I've got to be like, okay, this is what I want to play.
But with that in mind, for me to hold a game that I have held for so long and really enjoyed for so long, and the only games I really want to own are the games that I know that I'll play over and over again, and that I have played over and over again. That's why I hold Scythe and I go like, Cynthia won't play this with me, and the boys might because it has stompy robots.
Well, I mean,
right.
It's about 6 or 7 years too early for that.
Yeah, but what I will say though is, and you and I talked about this before the show, and I don't necessarily know if you and I we're talking about the same thing. So, but it's interesting. But I don't want this game to I'm not going to sell Scythe. I want it to stay in my board game family. It's just like, go live with your uncle for a while. That's kind of where it's at. Because I want someone to pull it out, like someone who's maybe a little bit more excited about it.
You want access to it.
Exactly. I do, but I just don't have the space for it.
I mean, for us too, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. And this is something else that we haven't talked about that we can talk about. Being in the media piece of it with us doing the podcast, it's tough, man.
Yeah.
To form those mentalities. Now, we've talked about it before of you play the game a lot and you dig deep into it.
Yeah.
And that's why those gaming, I guess, instances of, we chased them as gamers because back in the day, we only had 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
So you were playing it a million times, so you got really good at it. Once your collection gets much beyond 4 or 5 games, you can't do that anymore.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Right. With kids and bills and spouses. I mean, you just can't. You've got to live life.
Who's Bill?
Who's
Bill?
Yeah,
I'm just a Bill.
And so, as media people,
there's a whole group of people who have no idea what I just said.
They need to go look it up too.
That's true, yeah.
It's really, really tough for us in the media because we have to play new games.
Yeah.
Unless we change and say, hey, we only talking about the 4 games we own.
Listen, folks.
All the time.
Feel sorry for us.
Nobody wants a podcast like that.
Yeah, feel sorry for us. All we can do is play new games.
So
I know that you're really bemoaning that.
So like we said, I mean, for me right now, obviously it's a little different also in that it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making the decisions for just me. Mm-hmm. In the future, when that changes, if that changes, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to risk a relationship over it. But my reason for owning more games, the games that I own now, isn't going to change.
But Larry, I'm going to just be real honest with you. Your game collection right now, that's your number one flex. Like, I mean, you go to a girl, you go, hey girl, I got over 300 games.
Actually 500, but no, that's
exactly. Even more. And listen, you just
won't even. It'll come up, but it's not going to be.
You went from stud status to Mac Daddy. Is what you went like. Girl, I got 500 board games.
In certain circles, I'm sure it is.
That's right.
Woo! Gen Con Origins, here I come.
That's right.
Terrible.
Who needs beads when you got them the badges?
Oh my goodness! Tell you what, we got a lot to get into. We want to officially kick off the summer games. Let's take a break here and come back in and get right into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Spoken Token Podcast, episode number 92. Come along with Alex and Larry as we kick off our annual Summer of Games for the 4th year. This time, Summer of Games 4, Return of the Games Group. This summer, we will focus on games and gaming-related activities to begin to welcome your gaming friends back to the physical table, as well as to further explore some ways to continue to connect and enrich your connections virtually. We open up with first impressions of recently played games Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, Dune Imperium, and Power Rangers deck building game. Then we dig into some game types and genres that bring out both the best and the worst in us, and we share strategies on how to identify and to deal with them in both yourself and fellow players around the table. We then give details on some fun new summer projects we're up to here at the Spoken Token, and of course, stick around to the end to get our top-notch best suggestions for games to go play as soon as you finish this show. All this and so much more. So sit back, relax, turn the AC down, and turn us up as we join your hosts, Alex Wallace and Larry Neal. All right, everybody, and we are back. And like I said, it is time for Summer of Games 4, Return of the Games Group, which, of course, is a play on Return of the Jedi, not Impact.
Okay, but if it's a play on Return of the Jedi, shouldn't it be Summer of Games 7?
No, man, I'm doing it. Can't be 7 because when we just skipped 3 years, it had to be 4 because that's the number of years we had.
6. Summer of Game 6. Right. That's what it needed to be.
I got it as close as I could, man.
No, because
thanks for picking it apart.
It'd be like a new summer.
No, man. Thanks for picking it
Help
apart.
me out, Carl, right?
I wasn't following it exactly. That's the way your brain works. You know what? If you come to a production meeting sometimes, we might have done that. But you weren't there that day I came up with this. So, end of story.
Wow, you just got like the nerd from the group the group project person. Like, I planned this entire project.
Been in quite a few meetings like that. No, I've been there watching like, wow.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, I'll take a B, all right?
But what we want to do this summer, we want to focus on games and gaming-related activities to begin to welcome your gaming friends back to the physical table, as well as we're going to further explore some ways to continue to get together virtually. So we're looking at a full-on return to gaming in the summer with some tips, some ideas, a giveaway or two, which we'll talk about later, and of course, so many games. There's also going to be a surprise sighting or two right here on the show. We're looking forward to that. So come on, let's celebrate the summer of games, and we're going to start with a couple of projects that Alex and I are working on. We've been keeping them under wraps. We've kind of been alluding to it for the last couple of episodes. I've been throwing hints in there, here and there, and now we're ready to do it. Which one you want, buddy? You want 1 or 2? Just call a number. 1 or 2? Which one do you want?
I'm
1 or 2? Just call a number.
Number 2?
Okay, then I'll do number 1. So number 1 is, and you'll get to do number 2. That's the point.
I don't even know what these are.
Well, his computers and notes helps.
Oh my gosh, stop it.
First things first, what we want to talk about is we are playing a game, a tabletop RPG, and we're recording it. We're playing Starfinder. So it's Alex, myself. We got someone to run DM for us. We got another gentleman to help us who's going to be one of our sightings coming up here in a couple of weeks. And the plan is we're going to record this thing, and then we want to hopefully edit it so that it makes some coherent sense. As Alex is laughing because he's been there. And then we want to debut them over on our YouTube channel.
I have a feeling that there's a whole certain subplot of my character trying to engage with your character that will be completely scrubbed from the edit, and it'll act like it never happened.
Well, for one,
I'm gonna be real sad.
For one, technically speaking, it's not possible because of the thread that runs through. But this is just about us playing a TTRPG. We had an idea. We were brainstorming about some other things that are coming up in the summer, and you mentioned it. You said, "Hey, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could just get together and play an RPG?" And you told me, you looked at me and said, "I don't want to DM it. I want to be in the game and just maybe somehow get that on the show." And that's where that idea came from. And I was like, I made the phone call on the way home from the studio that night. I'm like, "Hey, got a request. Can you run a game for me and my co-host? Maybe let's pull another couple of bodies in." And we played around with the systems. We found a system. We jumped into Starfinder. And it was like, yeah, let's do it. And then that's where the brainstorm came from. Oh, let's film it. This would be fun. Let's put it up on our YouTube channel, Woefully Underserved. We know that because we haven't put a lot of content over there. So we're looking to get those aired as soon as we can edit them. We've met together a few times, so we've got a few sessions back.
Yeah, and of course, they're all via Zoom.
Yes. They're via Zoom. We're using Roll20
Yeah.
as a system. We can talk about that as well. And so we just want to put that up, something fun, just a way to see, hey, guys, we're not experienced in running TTRPGs. We've done them, but we don't have a lot of experience. Certainly not experienced in doing it digitally. Hey, if we can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, but the one thing that we are experienced in is annoying the bejeepers out of each other. And both Larry and I do it to each other in spades.
Which is not the focus of the TTRPG session. Not even sure where it came from. But yeah, that does come in here a little bit. Can't deny it, it does.
I think that's the good point about the video is you can just see how far your eyes actually roll every time my character does something.
I try to click away from the camera when I do that. I may have missed a few, so you might be right. So number 2 is the project we were talking about earlier today. The project. That's not secret, but we had Chris Anderson on a couple of months ago, and he talked about his board game design contest.
He did.
So what's going on with that, Mr. Alex? What are we doing?
We're judging board games.
You and I have signed up. I also want to do a quick plug. If you are listening to us and you haven't signed up for that to judge it, go and do it.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting process. So what do you think? How'd you feel about going in there and grabbing your first few games? And
it was, he explained it. He explained exactly what we were going to do. And then when I got in and started doing it, I was like, what am I? Oh, this is what he said. So it was, even though I was prepared for it, it was still really jarring. And so ultimately, what's in this round of judging, there are a number of people who submit their game designs, and it's not like the 18 card stuff. I mean, it's like they're full-fledged games, deck builders, and war games, and card games, and all this. But what you have is you have a 2-minute video that you have to watch, and then you have a sell sheet. And as Chris put it, it's basically your elevator pitch.
Yep.
And ultimately, you have one sheet of paper that explains anything that your video could not. Then, as a judge, you walk in and you look over those, maybe watch them 2 or 3 times, read the page, but you're not reading a rule book. You don't get no hands-on on your physical components or anything like that. And so, as a judge, you are providing 2 numerical scores, an excitement score and then a quality score, and then you are providing feedback on what you believe, like, hey, how could this game improve? What would you like to see in those kinds of things? And it can be anonymous, but all of mine, I just put my name in there because I would love to continue the conversation.
Sure, absolutely.
Because I know I don't want them to feel like someone's coming in, making a quick, thing out of context. Sometimes these games are so loved by their designer.
Sure.
That
you've been there.
Yeah, and I know that there's like, well, here's this. Yeah. So I easily was like, here's, you have an opportunity to leave your email address, and I hope the conversation starts where I can come back. I can, either clarify my comments or even just dive into a conversation to maybe. Because ultimately, I want every game that I judge to succeed.
Right, and I love one of the things that Chris said that helped me out. One of the first things that I wrote down when he was here and he was talking on notes on this particular contest, when he was like, you don't want to, as you're helping them, you're not trying to design it for them.
Right, yeah.
And even though that's super simple and it should be simple, simply very obvious, I hadn't thought about it, but that was so liberating, even in that moment. And I was still kind of on the fence, even though I wanted to help Chris about whether or not I would do it. But the moment he said that, I said, I am doing it.
And I will say,
doing this contest.
Everyone,
I'm so glad that
every piece of feedback that I have given so far has come from a development standpoint.
Sure.
Not necessarily a design or a gameplay, but like, hey, if you thought about this, component or doing this to your components for ease of play, just, here's what I would do to keep your core game mechanic the same, but maybe it changes the aesthetic.
Yeah, I didn't get too deep into that. I did do some stuff like that because you can't not.
Yeah.
But my thought was based on what you said a moment ago. I was typing. I wanted to make sure I kept the notes. So I kept the point straight in my head with the videos and the sell sheets. The truth of the matter is we got to work with what they give us.
Right. Absolutely. And
in some of those instances, if that's a problem, I've said that.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, your score is this, which is probably less than you hope. And one particular instance, it definitely was. I'm like, there's a lot of game potential here, but I'm not getting that in your video, and I'm not getting that on your sell sheet. Right.
But see, here's where I tried to avoid that because ultimately,
I want to be helpful to them because this is the contest.
Well, no, but I guess that's a philosophy thing too. Is like, our comments are supposed to be about the game.
Well, it was. I mean, there were other things about it. That wasn't that. I never left anything at just that. I just, like I said, if that was a part of it, I left that in there.
Yeah. Well, it's actually funny.
And what I could work from the game, I did. But there's so little info about the game itself. It's like,
Is that the one that you and I were texting about?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. This one is another one that came after, and I was
Okay.
like, wow, I'm loving what I heard, and then basically your sales sheet said what you said, but in the video, you didn't give me anything to work with. And like I said, I get what you're saying, that's a philosophy thing, but like I said, that's the contest. If this was years past where they were sitting in prototypes and we were going to get a chance to sit in a room like the button shop was, totally different thing. But that's not what's going on this
And
year.
so,
to make it to the next round.
Remind me how people move on.
It's going to be based on their scores.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be based on the scores. He wants to get, last year, I know he said he had 15 per game. And this year, judges per game. And everything that I looked at, I did another 5 or 6 today. I've been enjoying it, actually.
Yeah.
It's been quite a blast.
Right.
I think I did 5 or 6. The one that I saw the most, I think one of them had been judged 4 times when I touched it.
Yeah, and see, and I tried to get.
So I was number 5.
Right.
But most of them were like 2.
Yeah.
And one of them was 0.
Okay.
It hadn't been judged yet at all.
Well, I see there were a number that I did not find any zeros.
I found one.
I found one. I think 2 2s, and I tried to do those.
Yeah.
And then
I went through. I went through and just kind of looked at the list, and then of course the way he's got it set up for you. For those of you thinking about judging, you get an opportunity to read a little blurb on it.
Yeah.
Which is done by the author of the game, obviously, or the creator of the game. So you can kind of make up your mind there too. I tend to read if I click on it and read it, I'm gonna judge it.
Yeah.
I didn't go away from any. If I read that blurb, I went on and looked at the sales sheet. I went on and looked at the video. I opened the form and I went on and I judged it. And I get that you can move through quicker, maybe not doing that, but also too looking at titles. That has a lot to do with it also. And that's what I was judging from, was looking at titles, thinking, oh, that sounds cool. Let's click on that.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether doesn't matter whether it's light, medium, or heavy. But at any rate, Alex and I are going to follow this through all summer. So you'll hear about it. We're going to put links in the show notes for you guys to follow it. Again, those of you, if you're listening, if you're on the fence, go judge. I think it's fantastic. I think it's tremendously helpful. Like Alex said, I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. That's why I did so many today. I was only going to do a couple more to refresh the process because I'd done a few, but that's why I ended up doing like 6 of them. I'm like, this is great. And no, not every one of them is, thinking I can't see them all sitting in a box on the shelf. That's true, but that's not why we're here. Being immersed in the games and everything games and the gaming culture, which is very much what this is. To me, I'll say this and we can move on. Board game designers are among the very favorite people for me personally in the world because they're the same type of people that I play games with. And it's basically other people that I would play with, but this is their being super creative and super excited and being fired up about that game design. Like when you did yours, when you were bringing it to me and whenever you're showing me a prototype. I love that. That is fantastic. It's not playing a game, but it's still gaming and it's a part of the hobby. It's a big part of the hobby. So if you can contribute by going out and being a judge, you can still sign up. If you submitted a game, good luck. And reach out to us and let us know if you did. We'd love to hear, and we'd love to maybe talk to you later on after you win the contest. It would be awesome if one of the spoken won. I wouldn't be surprised at all. They're a very smart bunch. But that's one of the things that we are knocking out this summer, or 2 big things that we're knocking out this summer. We're going to talk about the contest a little later on. So that's our bit of an official kickoff in Summer of Games 4. And I think we should probably move on.
And we're back. Hey, Larry. Hey, so I know we have a couple of scheduled games to talk about. We're actually doing another round of first impressions.
Woohoo! First impressions.
Yeah, Larry and I got some games that were on our list to the table. But before we get to our regularly scheduled programming, I would love to talk about a game I played for the first time this weekend. And I think it'd be relevant here just to kind of
okay. And just to set the table, make sure we're talking about it's the first time you played it.
First time I played it.
Right. We want to talk about from everything about the way it looked, how it felt, how you got it, how easy is it to get now, and all of that good stuff. Yeah.
Well, actually, how I got it might be a source of contention for some people. But the game that I want to talk about briefly that is not on our schedule is Terraforming Mars: The Ares Expedition. So for those of you who don't know, Stronghold Games basically took Terraforming Mars, and their official statement is they turned it into a card game, which Terraforming Mars itself was a card game to begin with. But what they did is they streamlined a lot of the resource collection. They updated graphically the cards and took out a lot of the board interaction. And so it's less dealing with the board actually at all. And I have to tell you, Larry, that it was a blast. Now, I really enjoy Terraforming Mars. Did your computer just die?
No, I didn't realize that the spawn of Engelstein designed this game.
Spawn of Engelstein?
Jeff Engelstein, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for as a game designer, his daughter is Sydney. She's one of the designers on this.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's
Oh,
why
okay.
it's so good, because he ain't no joke. He's like Ian Gilhover.
Oh.
You ever see Gilhover? He's a guy with glasses.
Yeah, no.
That's her dad.
I-
Jeff, they're like this, and they're the real deal. And Sydney,
I've met Gil Hova before.
chip off the old block, clearly. Did
That's
he shake your
interesting.
hand?
Huh?
Did he shake your hand?
He did not. He did not.
He does not do that.
I know that. I know that now. And he only publishes games he designs. And he told me that by not shaking my hand, and then said, I only publish games I design.
Yes.
So, but hey, Formal Ferret, listen, Gil Hova's great. I love it. Well,
Yeah,
okay.
fantastic. Huge fan.
So what it was, Spawn of Engelstein? That's not her name, is it?
No, her name is Sydney.
Sydney. Okay, Sydney.
Yes.
And then who was the other?
Jeff's daughter. Jacob for Alexis.
Okay, who was the actual original designer of Terraforming Mars?
Yep, and Nick Little.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
And so I have to tell you that, so here's, for those of you who have no idea about that there are new Terraforming Mars was coming out. Here's what you need to know. If you were ever curious about Terraforming Mars and didn't necessarily, maybe it was too complex for you, or maybe it's too imposing. I say, if you are someone who likes faster gameplay, this is the version for you. If you don't already own Terraforming Mars. Now, if you own Terraforming Mars, there's no reason not to own this as well, especially if you like Terraforming Mars.
Really?
Yes, it is different enough because basically what it does is it takes sort of the role in the race, the role for the galaxy mechanic, where you choose
So good.
you choose different phases. And each player flips and says, "Oh, well, I chose this phase, so we're only doing X, Y, Z phase." So there are 5 phases
Mhm.
that are available for you in Terraforming Mars: The Ares Expedition, and each player chooses one of those phases. Now, if 2 players choose the same phase, well, then you only maybe trigger 2 phases. Let's say you have a 3-player game, and 2 people choose the same one and someone chooses a different, you only activate the 2 phases that are showing. So there's kind of a read the room little bit. That's kind of neat. But then after that, each phase, every player plays simultaneously. So in regular Terraforming Mars, it's action, action, next person, action, action, next person. And then everybody triggers their resource bonuses and all this. Well, the production phase is actually one of the triggered phases that you have to actually play a card to do, which is really, really cool. And there was some fun moments of tension where we're like, is someone going to do that? Because I really want to do these other things first. But with all that to say, it's different enough that I could understand owning both. It is
Really?
but it is similar enough that I don't need original Terraforming Mars in my collection, because me as a gamer, I much prefer faster games with very little downtime between players.
Let's play a game.
Oh, bless. Yes, okay. But we've talked about this 1.5 million times. They don't need to know. They already surmised that. Okay. All right. So, but again, but I'm telling them, I mean, this is the version for me because it plays quicker. But listen, when I say it plays quicker, it still took the 3 of us, experienced gamers, 2 hours to play an entire game.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the important things for you and that you know about yourself, it's funny, we're going to talk about this probably in the next segment a little bit, which is good that you know about yourself. You like, if you're not really necessarily moving quicker, which this game just proved, you like to feel like you are. You don't
Yes.
you don't like to feel like the turns are dragging out.
No.
Right. And you and I are completely different on that.
Mhm.
I don't have a problem with the fact that you're the opposite, but I'm not. I couldn't care less. Take as much time as you need. Let's play the game. To me, opening the box and playing the game is the most important thing. To you, you want to get in and play as many quickly turns as possible. So no, that's cool that you know that. When you told me that, I thought you were going to finish up with, yeah, and we finished in like 30 minutes. But then you were like, no, it took just as long. I was like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's so again, it's still you're not. It's not a diminished experience. It's just as meaty and engaging. But for me, there was less fiddling around.
Well, streamlining rules is huge.
Yeah, and
That's the
well,
thing.
and the card art and the symbology is so much clearer now, and they tell you what things do in multiple places, and so it's simpler. It was easier
helps.
to trigger things and to not miss things. just because of the colors of the cards. Now,
Pretty
again,
cool. How did you get it?
all right. So this is where this is probably the most controversial thing we at the Spoken Token will ever talk about. Well, you're right. We've talked about other things, I guess. I don't know. But Stronghold Games came out last week, 2 weeks ago, and said, hey, listen, 2020, 2021, shipping, everything's a little crazy. So what has happened is they created 2 versions of the game. They did a successful Kickstarter version, which has a double layer punch board and some upgraded bits and components.
Cool beans.
Yes. Well, when they did that, they also produced a version specifically sold at Target. And the Target version got on the boat first.
Probably completed first.
Right.
Because it's less complex.
And so, but what has happened is a good portion of people on the interweb who have nothing better to do have started complaining, like, oh, well,
Not that group.
I know. They're getting it first. Okay, and I'm sorry if you're one of that. I understand the emotional frustration.
Well, let me ask you this:
of seeing someone like me get the retail copy, and when the only thing that's really different is sort of it's not the game itself. It's kind of the components.
Well, you got the hobby level, and then you got the mass market level,
right?
Which is the lower level. Let me ask. This is the question I want to ask.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Did they say in the campaign that they were going to
Never.
deliver to Kickstarter backers first?
Nope, never. It was not said at all, and that's where I'm like, I don't feel bad for these people.
Yeah, I don't think it's controversial at all.
But but people, again, Kickstarter, and I think that goes to one of those things that Kickstarter breeds this level of exclusivity. Like, I'm getting it here, so therefore, like, I'm the most important person. You should give it to me first. We're not going to go into that. Hold your tongue. But regardless, it is at Target for the price that I paid for it. It was well worth the experience. But what's fascinating is I'm at the level now where, like, if there's a better version of a game I like, I want the best version. So now I'm going to be waiting for when those Kickstarter versions come in and go, all right, who wants to sell me theirs?
Oh my goodness, I hope not.
No, because I want the upgraded version of it now. Because again, it's the one that's going to stay with me because I really, really enjoyed it. All right, so that was my first impression with Terraforming Mars.
Cool, a little bit of bonus coverage.
Yeah, Ares Expedition. My suggestion is, again, everything that I love about Terraforming Mars, without all the stuff I don't.
Which is very cool. All right, well, we got 2 more games we're going to do first impressions on.
What, you mean we're talking about board games on our board game podcast?
Talk about that. How about that?
And not just us playing board games?
Right, and that one was, of course, like you said, Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition, published by Stronghold Games. It was released just this year, as Alex just talked about.
2 weeks ago.
Right, and so the first one that we're going to talk about, the next one I should say we're going to talk about is Dune Imperium. And this is by Paul Dennen. This was published by Dire Wolf, and it was released back in 2020. And my first comment on this one is, man, because I got it around my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it back in March. And when we were playing, and Alex and I got to our first game was a 2-player game. I'm sitting there thinking, man, why did I wait so long?
For real. Yeah, absolutely.
Holy moly. Let me get this out of the way up front. It was readily available at Barnes & Noble, which is where I got it. So it was for MSRP. I paid MSRP. Don't have a problem with that. It was what it was. Oh, man. It's really
well, and it was one of those that, like, when it came out
really
last
good.
November, it was hitting Game of the Year for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, but that battle mechanic, that's going to be the thing that gets me.
Oh, man.
And then, so I was able to convince myself not to get it.
Right, which, I mean, I would have probably ended up with yours. Maybe.
Shut up.
No, I mean, I'm just saying maybe not, though, because of what you were saying as we went through it. But I'll just drop a couple of my notes. For one, for me, which is something else I'm going to talk about later on in the summer, not today, but I am glad I sleeved the entire thing before we played it because there's quite a bit of shuffling I have to do with some of the things you have to deal with. I just love what it's doing, and I love how it uses the mechanics that it has in the theme of Dune.
Yeah.
The mechanics that it's using, you've got some, there's worker placement, you've got some deck building involved, and then, of course, like you said, you've got the battling mechanic. Just so good. I think the pacing is fantastic.
Yeah.
The pacing of this one is phenomenal. Because when you see what's coming up, you flip over the conflict card. I mean, that's the conflict where you may be fighting. That's only one of the things you need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And it may or may not be the most important thing that round based on your cards in your hand. Oh man, it's just so good though. Because when you see that and you kind of want to think, oh man, I'm overwhelmed. I got too much, but then it's not. You look at your cards, you look at the other spaces, and you're like, no, wait a minute, I'm in this thing. And that's every single round. You know, what's in front of you is like, oh, it's too much. And then you look at yourself, oh, wait, no, I'm good. And then your opponent starts doing stuff and you're like, oh, man. Yeah. And then they miss something and you're like, oh, I'm back. So, I mean, the pacing of it was
yeah, you're never out of it. And I will say the thing that the way that the game works is you have at its heart, it is a deck builder with with worker placement. It's more of a worker placement game than it is a deck builder.
I think it is hard as worker placement. Yeah, the flip-flop. Yeah.
But, and I know we had discussed, like, oh, people are comparing this with Lost Ruins of Arnai. It is. They're very, very similar in that the cards that you play determine where you can go. And so, now, I think Dune Imperium's cards are better used.
Ooh.
So, but ultimately what you do
some of the best.
Is you'll play your card, and where it will have symbols, and those symbols dictate where you can put your worker. Well, once you play that card, and then you can trigger an ability on the card. Now, any card you don't play then goes to what's called the reveal phase, and this was so brilliant.
It's just brilliant.
And the reveal phase is actually where you get
when you're out of workers.
Right. So you put the cards that you have left in your hand. They kind of come your money for all other deck building purposes, and then you can buy from a communal pile. But all of the deck building all of the worker placement spots are really they're really useful. Everything is there's a limited space of where you can go, so you're really fighting for different things and hoping to get to certain things first. But again, for me, I walked away going, I absolutely love the idea of this game, the implementation of this game. I don't need to own this game.
And the mitigation is so brilliant.
Yeah, all of that. The conflict really turned me off. And we'll talk about that later, but I'm not pleased when I tell you it turned me off, but it did not detract from how good this game is. It is, every nut and bolt is so tightly put into spot. Like this sucker is a sleek
and guys,
spaceship, man. It is ready to go.
It is. And Alex hates the combat because in his mind he had built up one where he should win, and I was able to beat him.
It's not even that, but
in that combat. But Alex won the game.
I understand that, but you have to realize though that, and again, we have actually this spawned an entire segment that we're going to do after the break. But
yes,
yeah, it has nothing to do with that one combat, but it has. Like I struggle.
Oh, I thought it was great.
But regardless, this game,
yeah.
the action abilities, the choices you have to make, it's
and let me tell you what's funny, because we didn't talk about this then, because for one, I wanted you to flesh that out, because I realized it was a different opinion than mine, so I wanted you to have that so we could get that down on tape, which is brilliant. But I'm gonna tell you what I did. This is how I did this in the whole game, which is why I was laughing at night when you said it. And even though you won, this is how I played this game, which I thought was fantastic. So what I did was I ignored combat or moving around when I didn't have access to it. So literally every turn, dude, I was flipping over cards and thinking, okay, well, I'm not gonna worry about it because I can't. And I didn't fret about it, and I didn't ignore it. So when those things came up with the combats the way they were happening, it just so happens it drew that way. Mm-hmm. And that's, to me, what was so brilliant, because there were times when you were specifically concentrating on it. And I'm like, I don't have anything to do with this one stupid card, so I'll just do a little throwaway. But because of the way how smartly the cards have been designed with the multi-use, it made me competitive. Yeah. Or a couple of them that I won. And it literally, I was like, I wasn't even concentrating on that. I wanted to get over here to get them, and I got that. The rest of the turn, I was like, whatever. And then you were sitting there doing your things, and it came out, and it ended up, and I was just like, it seems like I played brilliantly, but I'll just keep that to myself. I was literally only playing with what I had. And that's brilliant because it's the way the game is designed. That's why I said, and I did that all night. So when you said that, even when we were doing that one comment, you were like, oh my God, if you beat me in this combat. and I'm like, no, I don't.
Oh, I got it.
Oh yeah, wait, I will be able to. Which I know there is a bit of, for some people, it probably turns a lot of people off, but it's just so brilliantly paced. For us to be sitting there having a different experience at the same table, trying to win the game because of the difference, just asymmetrically, the way you can go about it. You're like, I'm going in and I'm going to dig in and have a huge army, and I'm like, I'm going to get all of this favor with all of these different factions, and that's what I'm going to do. but then you have to deal with the cards. So the cards that you buy, all of those things match together. And when I played it solo, and I know you want to talk more about the battle system, I'll let you do it. But I did play it solo after. I set it up that night when I got home. I didn't play it till the next day. You play with 2 other houses, as opposed, they still use the same deck that you and I were using in the 2-player game, but it's 2 of them. So you intersperse your turns throughout them. Man, it feels they're not just there to move the narrative along. They're trying to win. The things that they did, they weren't necessarily as timely or nasty in some instances. And to be honest, that's not really true because it never felt like that. It feels like you're playing 2 people. I mean, and they're going about their business. It's like, it's not that it's anything personal, man. I'm just trying to win. And both of them felt like that. In fact, I came in second. And I was winning the game. I was so far out. One of them had like a 6-point turn. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Oh, man. And then the next thing that turned up on the conflict was 2 victory points. And I had no combat in my hand. And nobody in my I played with red. The colors are red and tan. I can't remember which ones. Red. His first 4 or 5 turns, he had like 11 dudes in his barracks. And that turn, he kept hitting spots. He hit spots with 2 of his people to let him put people out. One of them was the one where he put 4 out to begin with, just out of his supply. Then he could put 2 more. And they always put the max if they have it. So he ends up with like 19 guys. And I'm like, oh, man, that was the one I wanted to win. It was so good. When I finished, I was just like, I don't even want to put it up. But I had other games that I had to play that I did get to play, and I really reluctantly put that one back in the box. It is that good. So we'll be playing that one some more and probably doing a specific on the table with it. But I know you want to talk about that combat, sir.
No, I don't necessarily want to talk about the combat. I mean, again, I'm telling you, it's well done.
Yeah.
As far as combat goes, I really thought from the development and from the design standpoint, this is a solid mechanic.
Yeah. I mean, you even have a target.
Yeah.
It's like, why are these guys fighting?
Yeah.
In this game, it tells you why.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and so, it's meaningful and it's not just, all of those kinds of things. Yep. But, but the combat is it will be that is the thing. Like when I'm fighting for shelf space.
No, I get it.
Now, I will say though that this one, if like I ever got this one for like a gift or something, I would not move it out of my collection.
It's really good.
Yeah, but
really
no, guys, listen, this one deserves every piece of hype that it got.
Yeah.
But from like Game of the Year and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you like worker placement game or if you like deck builders, like this is the perfect hybrid of each. And
It's
again,
really good.
I loved this action selection, like this deck building selection, worker placement mechanic so much.
Yeah.
I like that was when I left the game, I was like, I just want this to be in another game. I just want this to be in another game.
It's really, really good. And I will say this couple quick things about it. We talked about it, and then we can move on to the next game. I mean, from the standpoint of production, Direwolf did a good job.
Yeah.
The components are good.
Yeah, it's
I
solid.
like the colors. The colors are muted, but we're talking about Dune.
Yeah.
So they're muted, but they're distinct.
Yeah.
And because of the printing process, everything is exceptionally clear. And so the look on the table, for as much as it can be, because again, there are no minis or anything, I think it's very distinctive, very clean looking. So it looks good. It should be readily available. It's Dune Imperium by Paul Dennen, published by Direwolf, released in 2020. And now we're going to move on to the next game that we want to talk about.
It was our second in our deck building fiasco of a night.
That's pretty much how this one ended up. And this one is the Power Rangers deck building game. This one's designed by Dan Blanchett and Matt Hyra, published by Renegade Games Studios. And of course, it was released this year in 2021. They did a direct pre-order campaign, so not a Kickstarter. And then now they're selling it. It's sent out to retail wide. And of course, you can get it from them. And I hope a lot more publishers that can do that start doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Just because we know from an inside standpoint that for publishers, being able to sell directly like that in order directly helps them. They're going to go into distribution. Renegade's going into distribution, right? Brotherwise is going into distribution. Van Ryder's going into distribution. They're going to go into distribution. They are. But if they can start a campaign off and you're giving the money directly to them, that gives them the most. That helps keep them going. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
The point is not for us to get, $80 board games for $5 because we'll only do that once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's going to be out of business because they're going to be all working at other jobs.
Right.
So what we want to do, if we can, we want to support them. And what did find it really important, I wanted to throw that in there. So I was really happy to see that they've done it again with another game after the Transformers game is the same thing. Again, not a Kickstarter, but there's kind of run like a crowdfunding, but it's directly through them. So that's how I picked this one up.
Mm-hmm.
I pre-ordered it. I'll throw that out there now, but it is now readily available. And so what did you think about this one? First impressions on this one. What did you think about this one?
So as someone who loved DC Deck Builder, this just felt like this felt like DC Deck Builder grew up and went to college. is really what it was Matt Hyra doing what Matt Hyra does and just going, how can I push the limits here?
I think we're just beginning to see what Matt Hyra can do.
Yeah, and the fact that like after playing and I go, oh, that felt like I abstractly saw the Power Rangers universe through each of the mechanics, yet each of the mechanics still leaned into just a simple deck building game,
which is something that Cerberus never did.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And I will say
that's why I bought this one.
Yeah. Now this one is a little bit. Granted, Larry and I previewed this one back at RenCon, and so we were a little bit familiar with it. But this one is not easy to. Is not as easy to learn as like DC Deck Builder.
That's where I was going. Yeah, because to me, the only things it has in common is that it's a deck builder. Matt Hyra made it. It's got a center deck you buy cards from.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, none of this reminds. I don't think DC Deck Builder.
Well, you have the attack and the blocks and.
Well, I mean that's standard card fare. I mean,
which he kind of
Well, I mean every TCG. I mean even the ones that came before him did that. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean,
well, no, but as in like a deck building game. You feel the Cerberus engine's DNA. Okay.
Yeah. No. I can't disagree with that. I mean, again, that's because it's Matt Hyra. So I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. From the standpoint,
you just want to disagree with me for some reason.
No, not at all.
Even agreeing with me, you're still disagreeing with me.
No, because the thing is, when you're playing it, and I want that to be said. That's why I didn't say anything. Where you're telling people, because that may give some people a point of reference. That okay. DC Deck Builder. I'm just saying for me playing it, no, I don't see that at all.
But if you've played DC Deck Builder, or
Ascension or
yes, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean that's the point. I mean, for me,
yeah, but it is definitely more complex than most any other deck builder I've ever played.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Fantastic segue. I was going to say this too. There's another thing too. There's a bit of a gap in this one in terms of playing it, being successful. For me, and I knew better, so this was my own fault, but it still exists. So I'm glad it happened so that I can bring it up. Like you said, I'm not exactly a fan of Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an anti-fan, but I'm just not a fan. I don't really care for the franchise at all.
Yeah.
I bought this game because we played it at RenCon. I thought it was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I said what you said a moment ago, getting the feeling of being in a Power Rangers episode or in the universe from a deck builder blew me away. I was like, that is incredible. I'm going to go on and get that. So this is where the gap comes in. If you're not familiar, like I'm not, with how the Power Rangers work, and you're thinking, I'm just going to go in and do some cool stuff, and you're playing the Power Rangers, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do how they do,
yeah,
and if you don't play how they play and try to fight how they fight in this game, at least as it is currently, you're not going to do well against a villain that can read on a second grade level.
Yeah.
The villains will destroy you.
Yeah,
because that's not the way they work.
Right.
And so there is some movement. I know that seems kind of rigid, and it's not overly rigid, and I'm not upset about it. Because within what they do, they can do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to do what they do.
Right.
If you don't get them out, you don't get those Zords out, you don't get other teammates out, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And so that's a bit of a
It
that's
does
a gap.
not.
That's
it does not. It's not very forgiving for
At
anyone who wants to take their time.
Yeah. Not at all.
No.
And again, who strays away, because I wasn't doing what they were doing, because I think about it, we played it,
mm-hmm.
and I knew what we needed to know. I played it from the villain side, but still, and I'm looking at the cards, and as it was going, I'm thinking, I should probably be doing this. Well, I was doing other things because that looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of getting out more Zords, instead of getting more team members.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it wasn't pretty. I mean, it got to a point where I could heal up a little bit of the damage. Alex was doing so much damage to me, and I had nothing going on. Your villain flipped. You flipped to the more damaging side 5 or 6 turns, I think, before I did. I'm sitting there with Tommy, just as Tommy fighting this dude. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
You're a Power Ranger.
So just be aware of that. You need to understand how the Power Rangers work. They need to flip together, and they are a team.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to get the team together.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have more than one Zord in your Zord bag. By all means. Other than that, though, man, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a bad loss. I could have mitigated. I think we ended up just calling it. Well, no, we got to a point where you were like, yeah, that's it. I can't heal.
No, I mean, I won.
No, that's what I'm saying. You won. I mean, you won beyond it. It was like, I can't heal beyond that. But it's so colorful. It looks so good on the table. I think the graphics are fantastic. Of course, the production of it is over the top fantastic. It's not too heavy. I mean, it's just cards, and there's a couple of cardboard pieces, but everything is done really well. The graphics are crisp. The cards are fun. And again, I'm with Alex. It's a little bit more complex, which Larry didn't shy away from that. And then again, that uncanny feeling of having been in a Power Rangers episode, whether you're a fan or not, which again, this guy's not confessing to be one. You just sit back with a smile on your face.
I think you would make a great Power Ranger. So
you would say that.
I do. But I will say, I do have a fondness for Power Rangers. I remember when the first movie came out.
Super cool.
So I actually remember when the TV show came out or at least to America. I was third grade, so it hit me like, woo, yeah. Oh, be quiet. You know what? So what? But what was fun though is when the actual like Power Rangers movie came out. I was just old enough to be too cool, but I would like.
You went anyway.
But on the DL, I watched it and loved it.
What I did with the Transformer movie with my little brother.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll take it. I don't want to. So stupid, brother. I don't want to. But yeah, no.
So you're the one weeping at the end of the movie.
I get. Yeah, that's pretty rough. Yeah, it's pretty rough. I was sitting there literally going, what? No. What just happened?
No. I'm only here for my little brother.
So there's a bit of a barrier of entry, but again, once you know this and play to the strengths, you're going to be okay.
I'm gonna tell you this though, like Power Rangers, this is directed at the sort of that nostalgic Power Ranger older gamer.
Yeah,
this is not we're pushing this to kids as Power Rangers.
Right.
This is your more advanced gamer.
Yeah.
So be aware of that.
Yeah, and this is a subject that they don't have a lot of games.
Yeah.
Renegades is any other big game. I mean, they've had some in the past, but that is an area that's kind of ripe.
Yeah.
So Renegades I'm glad they're diving in because this is an excellent game, I think.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
good.
really fun. So again, Power Rangers deck building game by Dan Blanchett and Matt Hyra, published by Renegade Game Studios, released 2021, should be readily available from your FLGS, your OLGS, and of course, Renegade Games directly. Mr. Alex, so let's take a short break and then come back. All right, everybody, and welcome back. We are back, and Mr. Alex, we got a new segment.
New segment!
Yes, sir. And this time we're going to do a segment we like to call The Best of Us, The Worst of Us. What we're going to do this time, we're going to explore some games and game mechanics that bring out the best in us and the worst in us. And we want to share some ways to identify these trends for yourself and also how to deal with them in your own game or with other players at the table. So I broke it down into both, under best and worst. I did a game and then a mechanic because they may not be the same. Because just thinking about it and going through this one was a serious exercise for me. I'm like, that's a really good segment. I want to veto it, but it's so good I can't. So I'm going to have
again,
I'm going to have to come up with some stuff, but that's the way I broke it down.
And then, of course, this came out because the discussion that Dune Imperium triggered between Larry and I, because I had to process the game because I loved what the game was doing
pretty much
so much.
Yeah, so good.
But every time I got into combat, I just I hated it. But I didn't hate the game. It just like I sat there and I sulked and I was just like and I was like, I'm a grown man acting like a petulant child.
Oh, I'm glad he knows.
Oh, shut up. So there it is. Case in point. Yes. But and it reminded me, like, there are a number of games that it does not matter how like calm I am or can be or how patient I am. There are some games that I turn into a turd. and I'm like, oh, but why? And that's where that's the
it's important to know.
Yes, and it is, because if you know that type of game, then you can go into the game going, all right, here's how I can have some self-control.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when this instance happens.
Perfect. Yeah, which is what's brilliant about this. I'll start and try to move quickly through since I'm breaking them down in both game and mechanics, so it's not necessarily the same. So I'll move through quickly. So for me, what brings out the best in me in game, I couldn't help but smile as soon as I thought about it, which is On Mars by Vital Lacerda, of course, published by Eagle Griffin and came out in 2020. I just love sitting in front of it. Every time I've played it, it's difficult. It will chew you up and spit you out. Even though it's not really designed to, if you just stop and pay the requisite attention while you're learning it, then what you're doing just makes sense.
So let me ask you this. In the spirit of the segment, what about your demeanor or your what is it? What does it accentuate about you or bring the best version of Larry to the group?
Quite frankly, man, I don't really care. It's not that I'm not trying to win, but I don't care whether I win or lose. I'm literally just happy to be with this one.
And so what is it about that?
We've got the theming. We've got, of course, it's in space. It's doing in space, and you're running the colony. For those of you who don't know We've done some coverage on Mars. Go look at it. It's worth it. But it just, for me, there's just a pleasantness. When I know I'm playing that game, I'm not going to be bad company. I'm not. I'm just, again, I'm not trying to not win. I mean, I'm trying to win it, but I'm going to be good company. I'm going to be laid back. I'm going to be laughing. I'm going to be cracking jokes because the system is just so pleasant to exist in because of what you're doing. It's kind of thick and heady. It really is, but it's so accessible. Mm-hmm. And I just love that feeling about it. It's like I'm about to be doing something that's a whole lot, and it's really, 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 really tough to wrap your brain around, but I've done it.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy.
So it's the kind of the like
great,
sort of like the climbing the mountain feeling, like I've just done something difficult.
Not really. I mean, that's part of it. That's not the reason why. For me, existing in that space, I guess that's part of it. Okay. That probably is part of it. But it's just, I don't know, the environment that one sets, because of course it's so big and it sets such an environment, it's just so impressive to me. And I just like being there. It's one of those things where I just like being in the presence of that particular game, playing it.
Yeah.
The times I've played it solo, the times I've played it on the table with other players, I think I've had a 4-player game of it. Just a blast. I mean, even with a lot of us passing the book back and forth, thinking, oh my God, I don't know. And then you hit that moment where it gets quiet, late in the game, and everybody's realizing. And then when we're doing stuff, you can hear people going, oh. And then what they do, yes. You know, and it's like, yes. And everybody, and nope, there's no more table talk. Everybody's trying to win because we've gotten serious. Now we know what we're doing, and we're thinking, oh, it's a good move.
So really for you, it's less about...
It's the group journey, I think.
The immersion.
Yeah.
So when a game immerses you so fully in what you're doing, that's what brings out the best of Larry in gaming.
Good way to put it. I'm not even going to add anything to it. That's perfect.
Okay.
The best mechanic for me, believe it or not, which this one kind of is, I put Euro games.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. And I surprised that in myself, but when I thought about it, again, it's kind of the same thing because it's easy. I love when you're explaining or when I'm learning a Euro game, which this is getting a little ahead. Well, I guess we can talk about it now. For me, when I know that it's a good thing for me, when I'm learning a game or being taught a game, if the mechanics that I'm learning are like, oh, I can't wait to do that. Oh, that is so cool. If I'm doing that in my head, either way, I know I'm gonna have a good time.
And so what a lot of modern day Euro games do is their mechanics are thematically appropriate. And so therefore, in an abstract way, what you're doing is what you would simulate in real life, which brings you back to immersion.
Right. And so for me, again, they're accurate. For me, the mechanic, any kind of a Euro game, even the old ones, the ones that we'll consider old, modern ones are, of course, I think masters of it. Those that are sticking to Euro games. Some of them, when they're trying to paste on Chrome, maybe to try to appear to other markets, I think they're doing that with varying results. Man, do what you've been doing. The refined version of Euro games, those mechanics you've been doing for the last 80 years or more, love them. They are fantastic. So that's my best. The game on Mars, the mechanic Euro games. What about your best, sir?
So, and just to clarify, that means Larry likes to be immersed in his games, and that is seriously when Larry and it's fun. So, counting as an outside observer, when you see Larry like, oh, I'm living the game, like, man, he's pleasant.
Oh yeah,
and I mean, he just gets giddy and he goes, oh, that's great. I mean, it is a blast to see.
Love it.
So now, what brings out the worst in you, Larry?
Oh, you're gonna make me do them both, huh?
Yeah, I am. I am. And actually, when I saw this on your notes, I was like, yep, yeah, no, that's about right. That's about right.
So then everybody who's listened to us before knows what's coming. So we'll just jump right into it. So the game, again, we broke it down. Worst game and mechanic.
You broke it down, but
we'll start. Well, I did break it down. That's true. We'll break it down by game first. Word spot and let me say this before I go any further. No, any kind of a indictment on the game. I'm not saying it's a bad game or don't get it or any of that. This is just a game that I know has brought out the worst in me based on the experiences I've had with it. So the game is Word Spot. It's designed by Russell Gins. It's published by Front Porch Classics, released back in 2006. I purchased this copy directly at retail. I don't remember where, but when some things changed in my life and me and my collection moved, that one stayed behind.
It's akin to like you putting dog poop in a paper bag.
It stayed behind. It stayed behind. It stayed behind for good reason. And it stayed behind for two, just being completely fair. The other individual where it stayed behind actually enjoyed the game. So it made extra sense to leave it. Even more sense to leave it. So for me.
What's the genre? What brings out the worst of you?
Yeah, the genre, the mechanic puzzle games, man.
Yeah.
So we're talking any kind of puzzle games, word puzzles, math puzzles, some optimization puzzles, not all of them. Anything where it's either an add to the game or even if it's a main draw, it's just not my thing. Okay,
Which was so surprising when we played the initiative, because And I was I was like, after we cut, I was like,
if I had thought I could have survived it, I would have fell out in the flow. But I probably wouldn't have survived it.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
and I would still be laying in your flow too.
Which says quite a bit about the initiative.
Yes.
That even Larry, who hates puzzles, was all in.
Right.
But again, immersion. That game. The puzzle was a part of the immersion.
Yeah, and the immersion is way more important than the puzzle.
Yeah,
it's part of it, so it's really good. But for me, it's tough to enjoy them. And while I try to keep an eye on making sure that others have fun, I do fail sometimes as I'm just not interested in the gameplay. So for me, I recognize this. And one of the things that I do to recognize it myself, when I know that if I can talk to the person beforehand, like when we're going with Dave, and there's been a couple of times he's come to me and like, hey, which I appreciate, that's why you have a good game group. He's like, hey, we're going to play Enigma. You think you want to play? If you don't need me, no. If you do need me, yeah, I'll come play it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will try to get to the person if I know puzzle games are going to be on, and I'll ask them, hey, are we playing these or playing that? Are you going to need me? Because the one thing I'm not going to do, and this is for me personally, you can do what you want to do, but for me personally, let's say it's a couples thing, and there's maybe 3 couples, so there's 6 people, right? And you've got a rare 6-player game that we want to play. That's some kind of a puzzle game. I'm not sitting that out. Just because I don't want to do it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm going to put on a brave face, and I'm going to do the best that I possibly can, and it is what it is. Make it smaller, 2 couples, same thing. Right? We're in a group, and it's 15 people, and we're playing different tables. Yeah, I'm going to spend some time in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But when I can't do that, that's one of the things I recognize about myself. If I can get to the host and be like, or hostess, and say, hey, are we playing a puzzle game that you're going to play? Yeah, if you don't need me, I'm out. Yeah. If you do need me, I'm in.
That's one thing I have to do for me. When you have sat in front of games that have puzzle elements, and I've noticed, it's one of the few times you actually check out.
And I try not to.
I know.
You know what I do? I check out on the game because I check in everything else.
Yeah.
I become super lively guy.
Yeah.
So you're right. I couldn't tell us about the game. So I'm making jokes. Yeah. I'm talking. I'm doing sidebars. And you're right. I don't do that normally. Because for me, and I guess I'll have to thank you for letting me know, I'll need to check that. That was one of my other things. I was like, well, let me at least be lively. Mm-hmm. I'll at least be a lively companion.
Which is the worst thing to do during a puzzle game because everybody's trying to concentrate. So you're actually even more of a jerk. Double jerkly.
Oops.
All right. Well, that's really cool. And you know what? And the reason we are sharing this for ourselves is that we want to encourage you to maybe be a little bit more, maybe take some time and think about on your own. What is it that brings out the best? What do I like?
Yeah.
When do I become the best version of myself?
Yep.
And then when do I become the worst version of myself? For yours truly, I become, and we've already alluded to it, so I'm not going to keep you in suspense any longer. I become the worst version of myself during area control games. The only exception of that is Komet, because Komet is just a bash 'em, let's go crazy. It's so forgiving and fun anyway. Because I love that tech tree in that game so much. But any other, like the first one, Rising Sun. That game is beautiful. It's really well done. I think the politicking in it is second to none in any other game. So don't get me wrong, that game is so incredibly well designed. But the building up of forces to then like lose in a battle because someone was a little bit smarter than me or planned a little bit or had a card that they were waiting to bait me with, like that feeling for me is misery. And I'll just kind of like I'll just get huffy and puffy, like, well, fine.
Yes, he's telling the truth.
Yeah. And so just any game that has an area control mechanic of where you have to build up your forces to then like fight other forces. I just like I think it's the feeling that I've done all of this work and it is now wasted because someone was a little bit smarter than me or someone was ready for it. And yeah, that's awesome, and I know it mimics life and all of these kinds of things, but I just hate it. It makes me feel icky, and so subconsciously I start to get whiny or or I'll sit back and disengage. Or,
well, it's a true segment right here.
Yeah, it is. And so, now there are other games, like games with really, really long terms between players. I will check out. It's just because I'm just bored. But that doesn't mean I'm the worst version of myself. I would not want to play a game with me if we were playing an area control game because I can't promise that I'm not a jerk. But then I would look at myself if I was playing with myself like, man, who invited him? So
yeah, that's happened.
Yeah. So that's me. Area control games. I say Rising Sun again. It's just the one that comes to mind because actually we're talking about this weekend on my board gaming retreat. But because
did it make an appearance?
It did not because there was only 3 of us.
Oh.
We're gonna wait and play it at a bigger one. But we did play a game that was is something that I appreciate. It's called Rurik.
Rurik is fantastic.
It is, and so it is an area majority game.
Yep.
But what I appreciated about it was that I was able to play. I had the strategy that I went for had nothing to do with combat, 0.
Yep.
And so I appreciate.
You can do that. Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate games that offer an equally efficient win con
Right.
outside of the area control because again, it's just not fun. And games are meant to be fun, right?
Yes.
And if I'm not having fun, then the game is not achieving its goal. So now, what brings out the best in me? I absolutely get giddy and or just the most joy comes out of me and I engage when in worker placement games that have really cool combos. I love things that trigger things that trigger that things that trigger. And and you build things, and so a lot of worker placement games, engine building, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
But the sense of building something, something that's more effective or efficient. But most worker placement games where you are, you move and you're optimizing and all of those kinds of things. But to see kind of a big payout, and then to see other people's kind of machination pay out, that's just where we're hooping and hollering. And
you're gonna love Steamworks. I knew you would too.
Okay, cool.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna love Steamworks.
Okay, great. Yeah, but it's one of those games where everybody has a sense of accomplishment, and you mostly see that in worker placement games. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the ones where it's super brutal, cutthroat to if you don't get to that spot, you're dead. But we played Tricerion this weekend, and of course it was for the first hour we were just kind of okay, but when the light bulb went on,
I want to play that. So
and
bad.
I go back to that idea I was talking with you. Immersion is this is why I'm doing this, and I'm doing this.
Yep.
But then each time you did that, you were like, okay, but then that allows me to do this, and you get better tricks, and you perform, and the game. I knew that I really enjoyed it. It was one of those that's been sitting on my shelves for almost 4 years now. But
has it been? I didn't think it had been that long since you got it.
Yeah, it's been.
I thought you just got that this last fall before the pandemic.
No, I got it.
Are you sure?
2018. I've had it that long.
I did not realize you
it's 2018. Yeah, but again, it was one of those that aesthetically I knew, and I found a really great deal on it, and it's been out of the box twice, played once, but then we just made it a point to play it, and so it's just a worker placement game in which you really start to see your progress of what you're able to do. That's what when I become the most lively, or if I'm losing horribly, then I become really lively. Because
he's checked out.
Well, and again, it's I realize I'm not having fun. So let's how do I have fun? And so I'm going to cheer somebody on.
I can attest to that particular mechanic from this.
All right.
guy.
Well, that's what brings out the best of us. That's what brings out the worst of us.
Right. So we encourage you guys to take a look at both for yourselves as well. Both, it doesn't have to be the same. It could be a particular mechanic. It could be a different type of game as well. And again, just look out for those, markers for yourself so that you know what they are, so that you can mitigate them. And then when you see them at the table, when you recognize them, then maybe you won't always be so quick to, react negatively yourself or call them out. And maybe you can have a conversation with somebody off, or you can tailor your game's choice next time to make sure, okay, well, maybe someone's going to like such and such. It's just good knowledge to have, particularly with us getting games back to the table. Hey, let's take one more quick break and hear from our sponsors this week, and then we're going to come back and finish this thing out.
We want to thank the sponsors of today's episode, our friends at Van Ryder Games.
Creators of award-winning games such as the single-player Hostage Negotiator and the One vs. Many Detective City of Angels.
You can find their full catalog of games, including their graphic novel adventures, at vanrydergames.com. That's VANRYDERGAMES.com, your FLGS, or wherever you buy your games online.
All right, and we are back. So we're going to finish up this episode. We got a little bit of summer school to go to, and Alex and I kind of jumped the gun, and we got to it a little bit earlier. We were going to talk about the things that we're doing. So I just want to do a quick reminder that the Board Games Workshop 2021 Design Contest is going on right now. If you can sign up to be a judge, you can still do so. It is not too late to do so. We'll have links for all of this in the show notes. Alex and I are having a blast with it. Also, we're, of course, playing Starfinder, TTRPG, trying to get those videotaped and recorded so we can maybe get those released over on YouTube. And now, our tradition in Summer of Games, one of the traditions that has not changed. Alex and I give you every one of the episodes during the Summer of Games a game to go out and try as soon as you finish listening to this episode. Go pull it off your shelf if you have it. Go buy it if you don't, and play it right now. This is one that will give you tons of enjoyment right now, fully stamped guaranteed from the Spoken Token. Mr. Alex, what is your first Summer Games game choice?
My first one is the classic. Actually, it's not a classic because it's still fairly new, but that is Space Base. Space Base is it's a better version of Machikoro. It's kind of got some you're rolling dice. When you roll a particular number 1 through 12 on 2 dice, you get to activate a ship in your space base that gives you either money or victory points, or increases your actual what's it called, money output. I don't even know what it is. But what you start with money each turn. So I was running out of steam on that. But no,
I see.
But what's really great about it is the more players you have, the more likely you are, because when you purchase new ships for your ship, it flips the ship that you have. And then you now get a bonus when that number is rolled on someone else's turn. So it keeps you engaged on every person's turn is just as important as your turn, because you're hoping, I hope they roll this number or that number. And so it's really easy to learn, and to play well. Even if you don't play well, it's still really engaging. Right. And so that is Space Base.
This is by John D. Clare, published by All Direct Entertainment, originally released in 2018. Go get a copy right now and play it if you have it. Alex is telling you, you're going to have a great time. My first Summer of Games game choice for Summer of Games 4 is Railroad Inc. And this is by Helmar Hach and Hach. I think it's Hach. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm sorry. I normally look those up. And Lorenzo Silva. And this, of course, is published by Horrible Guild and was released in 2018 initially. And, of course, the new versions came out, and a reprint just issued in 2021 for the 2 new editions, which would be yellow and green. Red and blue were the first ones. Guys, it's a roll and write, legitimately. Comes with erasable boards and erasable dry erase markers, so that you can draw on them. They have a fantastic version, including digital versions. And again, this is the full-on version of the game, not just a knockoff. So it just released not too long ago, actually. So you can get it now on Steam. You can get it on Android. It is the full version of the game. You can play take turns with your team. You can play the whole game if you want to with somebody. Like if Alex and I want to play on the app, I could roll the dice. I could go through all 7 rounds, and then when Alex got a chance next week or whatever, he could use those same dice and do his, and then we could compare. So you've got an opportunity to sit down with people either digitally or in the same room. Guys, small boxes, so much fun. Alex got recently engaged to the red version of this, or blue. I think he's got my blue version. This is a fun game, guys. It's easy, it's accessible, something the whole family can play. They will play as many boards as you can get your hands on, as how many people you can play, or you can print off boards. So if you've got a larger family and you don't have enough boards, then just print off boards. And then you roll the dice. You can have a great time. It's super relaxing, I think it is. It's chill. I mean, you've got a puzzle to figure out, which that thing is with Larry, but this is so fun here because you're rolling the dice. I've been playing it on BGA.
It's not a puzzle. It's a, how do I make the best?
Well, it's an optimization puzzle.
Well, it's not really a puzzle, because puzzles, you usually have all of the pieces that are a lot of, not necessarily perfect information, but
overall,
But this is whatever comes up, whatever is rolled, how do I make the best use of it?
The puzzle, yeah. I got you. No, I got you. I mean, I think they're both right, honestly. I think they're both right at this point. I've been playing this one also on Board Game Arena a lot with our friends at Cat House Gaming across the country, and the implementation there is fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's another option for you. If you don't want to buy the app, you can go to BGA and play it. Guys, this is a great game. Again, Railroad Inc. By Helmar Hach and Lorenzo Silva, published by Horrible Guild, released in 2018 initially. The reprint came out and the new editions here in 2021. You cannot go wrong with any of the flavors. They are all fantastic. Wow.
Wow.
First episode of our new Summer of Games 4 is in the books.
The books.
Wow, man. We've covered a lot. And we've got so much more to look forward to. Thank you guys for coming out and spending time with us. We will see you back here soon. We'll definitely catch you on social media. Make sure you guys continue to play games and have fun. Spend time with your family as much as you possibly can. And for Spoken Token, this is Larry Neal saying keep communicating.
And this is Alex Wallace saying keep playing. This has been the Spoken Token Podcast. If you'd like to interact with us, please contact us through email at thespokentokenpodcast@gmail.com, on Instagram at The Spoken Token Podcast, on Twitter at The Spoken Token, or on Facebook at The Spoken Token Podcast. And you can reach us through our BGG Guild, number 2656.
Listening to a Pod Studio One Podcast Network podcast. Find more great podcasts at www.podstudio1.com.
Excellent. Well, I mean, hey, that'll be the end.
You better check in every episode now. You never know where that might pop up.
Yeah.
Have to poop. Here we go.
That'll be the thing that makes our t-shirts. Yeah, gotta poop.
All right, sir. Bring us in. Here we go. First impressions.